Hi, my name is Kristin and this is Kristin Kraves of Books. So today I am doing a bit of a different video. I'm going to talk about all the books that I'm no longer going to put on my TBRs. And they are probably not for reasons that you think. It's not because I don't want to read these books anymore. It's actually just more of a pile of shame for me. These are books that I put on my monthly TBRs, and then by the end of the month I don't read them and I'm embarrassed. And at this point I have put them on so many TBRs that you all probably just laugh at me at this point and think Kristin is never gonna read that. It's not gonna happen. So my goal with this is that I'm gonna leave these as options to mood read. I am somebody who loves to make TBRs but rarely sticks to them 100% of the time. So I'm leaving these out in my eyesight for when the mood strikes. I'm not gonna put the pressure on them. The majority of these are books that I think are gonna be favorites. And I've done that thing for years where I save books because I think they're gonna be favorites and I'm scared. So to stop embarrassing myself, you'll no longer see these on my monthly TBRs. Maybe in 2025 I will have come back and read all these. I highly doubt it, but I hope to make a dent in them. We're gonna start off with One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. I know I'm gonna love this. So many people have recommended this to me. I love fantasy romance. I love darker fantasy that's a bit more gothic. I have seen this book have a ton of staying power. It seems that every year since it came out, I think it came out in 2022, it's on best books of the year list. People love to talk about it. The sequel just came out and people are loving that as well. I know that I am missing out. I have the FOMO. I've put it on a million TBRs since I got this Very Loot copy. Saved it for the fall, thought to myself, it's a perfect read for October, so you should just read it then. Put it on my October TBR, didn't read it. Put it on my November TBR, didn't read it. Here we are in January, haven't read it. So you're never gonna see me talk about this again until I actually read this thing. In a similar vein, Spells for Forgetting by Adrienne Young. I have put many of Adrienne Young's books on my TBRs, have never read anything by her. This is one that came out, I think, the same year as One Dark Window, around the same time. Also Fairy Loot edition. Also seems to be a beloved book. Also a fantasy romance, though I have been told it's very, very light on the fantasy, so I'm prepared for that. I like some beautiful writing. She's got another book that's come out in the similar vein of this one that people seem to be enjoying as well. Haven't read that because I still want to get to this one. Again, put it on my October TBR. Put it on my November TBR. Here we are in January. I haven't read it. For some reason, these two books, Spells for Forgetting and One Dark Window, are like a pair in my mind. So I just have this feeling that I'm going to read one of them and then pick up the other one right after. I don't know why I group them together like that, but it's just the way it is. I have them shelved in my TBR cart beside each other. I put them on TBRs together many, many times because they just have that fall vibe. I'm not going to get stuck in that thing. We're going to save books for October because I am such a seasonal reader, especially when it comes to the fall. But the problem is that I end up saving so many books up for the fall that I'm setting myself up for failure. It's impossible that I will read everything I want to read in the fall in October. So it's just not going to happen. So I can read this any time of the year. I'm going to put it on my eyesight away from my TBR cart, somewhere on my shelves, so that it will haunt me. That's what needs to happen. This next one, I don't know what to say about this, but it's the rest of the books in the Green Bow saga. So we have Jade War and Jade Legacy. First of all, I think I can explain part of it, just the sheer size of this. Also the fact that people seem to bawl their eyes out when they read this series, and book one was heartbreaking enough for me, so I can't imagine more. But it's at the point now, I think I read the first book in 2021, does that make sense? It's at the point now where I have to reread the first book in the series, which isn't a problem. I never used to be somebody who would reread the first book in a series before continuing. I would just look up spoilers, or I would just pretend I knew what happened in book one and would just kind of trek along and be a little bit confused. But I just never thought that I'd be somebody who would go back and reread the first book in a series because I am notorious for reading the first book and never continuing. But that has changed in 2023. So my goal is to reread Jade City and finally finish this series and cry my eyes out. But I'm not going to tell you when that happens. So hopefully it'll just happen because I put this on my TBR for years. I've been shamed for not reading these. People tell me to get to it. What are you doing? So the next time you hear me talk about this, they'll be read. Or I'll do a vlog where I'm crying or something. But you're not going to hear about them until then, so don't ask. We will see. I don't know. I'm scared still. They're right beside my One Dark Window and Spells for Forgetting on my TBR cart. That TBR cart's kind of hidden away, so I think that is a problem. I just need to find somewhere better for that maybe, so that these haunt me a little bit more. But the first book haunts me enough. But it's gonna happen eventually, right? I have had Gods of Jade and Shadows by Silvia Moreno-Garcia on my TBR for years. This is a hardcover. This came out in 2019. I think she only had 4 books out by the time this one came out, or this might have been her 4th published book. I was already a huge fan of hers. I love Silvia Moreno-Garcia. I got this before I ever even started this channel. I was just a blogger at that time, and it's just something happened where I never got to this, even though it's short, even though I think of all her books, this might have the potential to be one of my favorites. And I do seem to read something by her every single year, but at this point it's her new releases. So I read Silver Nitrate last year and really liked that, but I don't explore her backlist anymore. So she has a new one coming out in 2024 that I'm sure I will get to before I get to this one. I've put this on many TBRs since I got it, especially if you ever followed my blog, you will know I've put this on yearly TBRs, on books I need to read many times, and it's never happened. So anyways, I have this feeling you're gonna hear me talk about different Silvia Moreno-Garcia books before you can hear me talk about this one. Also, The Beautiful Ones by her is another one that I think I'm gonna love. It's been on my Goodreads TBR for years. Haven't gotten to it. I just need to get to her backlist, to tell you the truth, but I keep exploring her front list and she keeps putting out new books, and then I just never go back. So hopefully you're gonna hear me talk about this in a wrap-up sometime soon, but I'm sure you're gonna hear about The Seventh Veil of Salome before this one. I just know myself. Of all the books on my list, this is the one I'm probably the most ashamed of, because it's by my favorite author. It's the most beloved book by my favorite author, and that is why I haven't picked it up. I'm caught up, I'm ready to get to this one, but I just am so scared of it, and that is Sword Heart by T. Kingfisher. I read the first 2 books within this world. This is a standalone, but they're all set in the same world. So I read Clockwork Boys, and I always read the title of the second book, because in my mind it's really just one book split in 2, but it's in the same world as this one, and next up I have to read this one and then I can get to Paladin's Grace. But this is so many people's favorite T. Kingfisher of all time. It's one of her fantasy romances. People adore this. They tell me I'm gonna adore this. Hannah actually sent me a physical copy of this, Hannah Blackwell, for Christmas, but it's been on my Goodreads TBR for years. I've had the audiobook downloaded for years. I've put it on TBRs many times. People call me out and say, I can't believe you haven't read that yet. And then I don't read it. So I'm just scared of it. And I don't know what it is, but I think that this should be, I was just gonna say this should be the first T. Kingfisher that I read this year, but that is a lie. Because before I get to this one, I am rereading The Raven and the Reindeer this month. So I'm so scared to try something new by her that is so beloved that I'm just picking up something that I know I already like. So it has to happen. It just has to happen. And I'm so thankful for Hannah for buying me a copy of this, because now that I actually own it, maybe that'll force me to do it. And let's just be honest, I am running out of T. Kingfishers to read. And I have this, and I also received the first book in the Paladin's Grace series for Christmas as well. So I have that one ready to go once I finish, and I never really loved this one. So I don't know what's going on with that. This next one even has a bookmark in it. I remember sitting down in October, getting so excited to read this, and then I just never actually started it because I was scared. And this is Vita Nostra. I have hyped this book up so much in my mind. People have read it because I've showed it in videos, and I've put it in TBRs, and I've talked about it so much. And some of you have gotten to it before I have, because I have just created this idea of what this is going to be, and I'm scared of it. And I do have this idea that I'm going to be the perfect mood for it in October and have my dark academia vibes, and then that just never happens. I'm going to read this in May on the beach in July. Who cares? It doesn't have to be the perfect time to read it. I'm going to love it whenever I get to it. So that is a thing. But it has been talked about on my channel many times, but you don't know my thoughts on it because I haven't picked up the damn book yet. And it's dark academia. It's super weird. I know I'm gonna love it. I don't know what to tell you. Just filming this is kind of eye-opening for me, because I'm realizing just how many of these books I've put on fall TBRs and not gotten to. Because there is nothing better than fall reading. I know a lot of you agree with me, but I can't read 50 books every fall. It's just not gonna happen. This is A Witch in Time by Constance Sayers. This was recommended to me on my blog many years ago. I bought it right away, and it's been sitting there ever since, and I think I'm gonna love this. I love witchy books. Now I'm part of a witchy book club. Should I force them to read this with me and make it happen? Who knows? We will see. But this is more historical. It's set in 3 timelines. It's got this time travel element to it, and it's also a love story. And I've been told I'm gonna love it. And I've put it on TBRs, I think every fall TBR since I got it. And I've never even read the first page. So maybe the Black Cat Book Coven will be reading this in the future if I decide to choose this one, because I have so many witchy books in my TBR. But it's not gonna be read in the fall. I'm gonna have to read this another time of year. The Jasmine Throne was one of my favorite books the year that I read it. Was that 2021? Time just seems to fly by. I have no idea. But the year that that book came out, I read it. I loved it. It was one of my favorites. I pre-ordered The Oleander Sword by Tasha Suri. Was so excited, was gonna read it right away. Of course I haven't done that. It's at the point now where the final book in this series comes out, I think in November. So I will probably reread that first book, finally read this one. That is a plan anyway, that is what I'm telling myself. But if you've been around, you know that I put this on so many TBRs since I got it, I think August 2022. So yeah, I'm hopeful that I will finally get to this now that the final book's coming out. So in fairness, once that was announced that we weren't getting in 2023 because I think we were supposed to, I decided to wait. So this one makes sense to me. It makes the most sense of all the books on this list. I then have the last two books in the Broken Earth trilogy. So that is The Obelisk Gate and The Stone Sky. The fifth season is one of my favorite books of all time. It was the best book the year that I read it. And back then I was not a series reader. And the thing is, that first book, you really have to be in the mood for. It takes a lot of mental effort. I haven't been in my epic fantasy mood for a while now, and I know how crushing that first book was. And the thing is, I feel like people talk about that first book, the fifth season, so much and how much they love it, and I don't hear about the rest of the series as much. And it's just, I bought the box set and everything, and I've just never continued on with it. I've never even tried, though I really should. This is one I know I have to be in the mood for. I know I have to reread the first one. My friends on Discord are doing a read-along of this right now, and I haven't joined. So I don't know what is stopping me from doing that, but it's gonna happen at some point. You're just not gonna hear about them on the channel because I'm embarrassed. Last but not least is not a book, it's an author. Louise Erdrich. I used to love literary fiction. I was a huge literary fiction reader before I started my YouTube channel, and then I just got really into fantasy. So I don't know why I haven't picked this up other than that I've been distracted by new fantasy titles. I just have this feeling in my mind, and I've said this for years, that I think Louise Erdrich is going to become a favorite author of mine, and maybe I've just put too much weight on her stuff. And I have two books, I actually have three. I have The Sentence, I just don't know where it is at the moment. And I know that Angela from the Literature Science Alliance loves her, and I think that our tastes align when it comes to literary fiction. I've put her on lists like books I'm going to read this year, authors I want to explore this year for many, many years, and I've never picked up anything by her. So the ones that I have are The Night Watchman, The Sentence Somewhere, and The Plague of Doves. This one's not even that big. I don't know what it is that's stopping me from doing that. So hopefully she'll be an author who I discover and fall in love with in 2024, but you're not going to hear about it unless it actually happens. So I'm curious to know if you have any books or authors like this that you've put on TBRs year after year and you've just never gotten to the books, because I know I'm not the only one. So I'm going to see if this helps me. If I just say I'm not going to put these on official TBRs anymore, I'm going to put them on a shelf separately, and when the mood strikes, I'm going to pick one of them up, and I will not talk about them on the channel until I've actually read them and hold myself accountable that way without the shame of it all. The thing that sparked this is that when I didn't read One Dark Window and Spells for Forgetting Again, I was like, how many times have I put this on my TBR? This is ridiculous. And I know those aren't the only books that I did that with, as you can clearly see. So once again, thank you for your support. I'll talk to you again soon. Bye for now.